And again, as I said, it's been a pleasure for me to work with the local stack team and Lazar as well. So that's why we are kind of co-presenting here, which is great. We're going to speak about autonomous software systems and specifically AI agents, and then Lazar's going to go deeper in the telemetry part. Ultimately, I just want to get the analogy here, like everybody know what SREs are, like software reliability engineers. We are in a way creating the autonomous application reliability engineers. The idea is to proactively try and fix a lot of the problems that are out there, identify them, and prevent issues from actually impacting customers and production. Just some background, what we are. Again, I'm not alone here. I'm presenting what we're going to cover today, right? Again, the goal is to improve product quality and increase the engineering velocity in teams. While we're doing that, we're seeing with the AI coding tools, they actually boost developer velocity and speed, but the application quality and maintainability drop, right? And this is where this demand for application reliability engineer comes along. It's not a common term, but it's pretty obvious what it means. And I'm going to show some actual data. Why we're seeing that? That's purely based on data that we're seeing out there. And then how we're doing that, again, this is where the focus of LogicStar is. It's, again, trying to automatically fix qualified issues that LogicStar can deal with autonomously. And when I say autonomously, I do mean 90%. And we'll deep dive into that there. Jumping in, again, behind me, it's not only me. We have kind of a great team, about 13 people right now, a number of additional researchers that are not full-time as well. Again, pioneers of the AI for code back in the days around 2016. We built a deep code and we reached 3 million contributing developers in the open source community, which was great. People using it. Then that actually got merged into Sneak Code, and now that's running more than 100 million ARR in sales, specifically focusing on security. Behind the teams, we've had 2 unicorn products so far, 4 successful exits, hundreds of years of commercial experience. Highlight some of the bigger ones like Google, IBM, Motorola. But also today, we're actually the global leader in lots of the benchmarks in the software, in AI for code and agent for code. The SWE benchmark, we're state of the art there. The SWT, this is a benchmark for the ability to test specific parts of the code and fixes. And finally, the one that we've actually developed ourselves is the SWA, which stands for applications rather than just libraries that are being tested in the SWE. But if we have time, I'll go a bit deeper into those. Same thing. A lot of our PhDs have published like hundreds of publications in computer science, classical AI, and security with tens of thousands actually of citations. So it's a pretty proper deep tech that we're going to be covering a bit. Good. Let's jump directly into the what we're doing. As I said, that's the first thing we want to cover. Again, more reliable applications without wasting time. That's ultimately the goal. If we get there, I'm sure everybody on the call and most of our industry is extremely happy. The idea is to prevent production incidents before they actually happen. It's great. We've been trying to do it for many years, and the data doesn't show that we are quite there, right? The secondary goal is obviously to cut time to resolution from days to minutes, right? When a problem occurs, rather than waiting in queues and spending time to figure out who's going to fix it, how to reproduce it, how to fix it, test and deploy, to be able to do that extremely fast when those incidents actually happen. And finally, it's kind of enables kind of a safe and reliable use and adoption of AI-generated code. You're going to see some data how that's a challenge today. And again, it's a good thing that that's the number one questions people ask me when I speak about those topics. AI will not replace developers. That is purely my opinion, but I think it's shared by many. But it will actually amplify our impact. We'll be able to do much more things, much faster, and then focus on the important things, kind of building new features, new capabilities, architecting them, etc. Going to the problem specifically, right? What we're doing, right? Autonomous self-healing for backend applications is the first focus. Again, as I said, 90% of autonomy, right? The idea is to identify, reproduce, fix, validate all those software defects without having us as humans to waste time, right? And end up at a final code review step, right? We still maintain this, as I said, the 90%. We have to validate. We control the narrative and decide what goes to production. It is precision-driven, which means that we're using multiple agents to decompose the problem on the individual problems, then select what optimal models can help and solve with them using a best of n, orchestrate all of those to maximize precision, which means how accurate it is, and ultimately minimize to remove most of the hallucinations or partial solutions that we're getting. And we're seeing a lot from the AI-generated code. Reproduction is always the first step, right? Every single fix begins by confirming that it's a real problem. That's very important. Kind of typical test-driven development. Pretty much you have to enrich the issues through correlations with logs, commits, observability, different signals, and historical fixes before even attempting to fix it. Again, Lazar is going to speak about this observability and telemetry and how we actually use it as well. And then the last piece is the intelligent abstention, or kind of saying, no, I cannot help you with this unless all of the gates and quality checks have actually passed. So in a way, don't create pull requests if it's obvious for us that one of the tests is passing, we're not able to reproduce it, etc. And the goal at the end of the day is, again, as developers, that we only see validated pull requests, right, directly into existing workflows. So you don't have to set up new IDEs or new environments, etc. It just comes in GitHub as pull request. You see it, you get a good explanation. But anyway, I'll show a little bit later some of those pull requests, so then we can see better what we're talking about. What is the problem and why we're doing it? As I highlighted, there is a growing demand for application maintenance, right? As they call it, application reliability engineers. That I believe it's the right term for. And the reason is what we're seeing is AI, as we said, it's definitely accelerating the development speed. We're seeing much faster completion of tasks, more tasks being generated, pull requests being double linked from an output perspective. So there's definitely adoption there, right? But we also see data that there is a quality trade-off, as we call it, right? Which means that the quality of those commercial applications and projects are actually dropping down, right? It takes longer to review the pull requests, so we're wasting time. There's the demand for maintenance, right? The code churn more than doubled over the past year, which means there is a quick prod patches of fixing something or removing it within the first 2 weeks of deploying to production. Duplication code has 9x over the last couple of years, and there is delivery stability of production application, bugs, etc. The size of the pull request actually more than doubled as well. So that's clearly, there's lots of the signs how we historically been measuring quality, and we're seeing those going down. So in a way, we're getting this trade-off, boosting developer velocity, but quality and maintainability is actually dropping. So what we're getting, cursor example, just a couple of weeks ago, I think Cornell sent this out. We're seeing in the first 1 to 2 months, like great improvements, more commits being created, the lines being added have increased like 280%. But then after that, like after 2 months, the effects actually disappear and sometimes gets negative. So all of these data, I have the quotes underneath, but it's kind of mixed messages what value we're actually getting. And I think this is where the autonomous application maintenance it's really needed. Again, software is breaking faster than we fix it. That's pretty much what it is. The 400 billion number here that we're seeing this is how much money are wasted every year just by the Fortune 2000 companies in production incidents. And the most staggering effect here is the 92% on the site, that 92% of those incidents already have shown something as a warning sign, either in telemetry or as a bug. And that's exactly the reason why Lazar after that will tell you, hey, if we're able to catch those and preventively fix them, we might be able to be saving almost all of it, 92% of this 400 billion. So that's a kind of, it is exciting future. That's why I hope that we get there extremely fast. How are we doing it? As I said, let's jump directly into a quick demo that I'll try to actually show you directly into the LogicStar system. Here we're looking at one bug that LogicStar found on its own. As I said, we have 2 major features here: the ability to find issues autonomously, and then the ability to actually fix issues that you're already aware of. In this particular case, we have a very interesting issue where we're actually duplicating 2 requests in the queues. And what can happen that can actually cause assertion failures after that, being able to kind of kill the runner and then waste a lot of efforts to actually run it again. So kind of compute tokens, you name it. The great thing is that the agent fully autonomously identified that. And the first thing that what it does is actually creates a test and kind of the ability to actually reproduce it. So let's actually jump quickly into the test. I won't bother you too much, right? But let me here just make it a bit larger so we can see a bit more. Okay. So when we go into the test, here it is. It's loading. We can see that we actually first create the mocks that to make sure, hey, we're actually creating these examples. Then create the actual tasks again after that, right? And then we actually run them again. So we have to schedule them, confirm that they fail, right? Then we actually create a couple of different workers. I'm running the wrong test, sorry. Okay, this is the internal validation test. Sorry, I'm backing up a little bit. We have 3 different types of tests. The final one that you're getting in the pull request is the unit test, as I highlighted. And this is the one that you actually care about. As you said, creating the mocks, scheduling them, making sure they actually fails, create the workers to confirm that when you're having 2 workers, one of them will fail, doing multiple retries. I think then we're actually doing them here, and then confirming that they fail. And ultimately underneath, we have a sandbox execution environment where we actually run those tests and confirm that they should have been failing. In this case, 1 out of the 30-ish so tests were failing before. And after we find and apply the proper fix, we actually see that this actually test will disappear. So this is the full run, kind of the summary, and we can see here that there was this 1 test failing. So that's kind of the first step that we described before. You have to kind of validate, reproduce, figure out how you're going to test it, and ultimately you come up with a solution that we were able to validate. In this case, we can see here in line 186 that we actually tracking the tasks that it's supposed to be requeued, right, to make sure that it's there. And then let's see the next change. We get line 2017 here. We actually check that we do not have this task scheduled and update the associated utility functions actually underneath to make sure that the whole file works. Automatically, we get the pull request, which is great. And just quickly jump into GitHub to see how the pull request looks like. Again, similar description, describe what it is. You see that all the tests have passed in this case. You see that we have a great test coverage. And then our team have quickly look at it and ultimately merge the pull request. So this is kind of the final 10% of the work needed to do all of the work outside of the fact that we're able to kind of identify the issues fully autonomously. So with that said, moving in terms of how we're doing it and why we're doing it, the initial setup is simple, right? You have to kind of set up your GitHub or just Git repositories, any sources of bugs that you have. As I said, LogicStar has its own bug finder, but you might have many others, right? As well as telemetry signals that Lazar is going to speak about it later, like observability, your own Datadog, you name it, and any customer bug reports that could be coming. That could be in Jira, Linear, you name it, and it's there. What LogicStar does, it kind of correlates all of those points and fully autonomously on the backend, pretty much while you're sleeping, as soon as something comes in from any of those signals, kind of triages and reproduce those issues, figure out if it's going to fix or validate it. And every time, if any of the cases, if any of the gates fail, it will abstain. It'll say, okay, I cannot help you with this. When all the gates are passing and you have extremely high precision and certainty that everything is good, then you can create pull requests and only then give it to the developers for this final code review that we speak about. I'm not going to waste your time with another example, but we can actually jump hopefully during the Q&A. How this is done, I'm just going to highlight what is the difference between all the other tools out there. There's lots of hype. Everybody's claiming, okay, we can do this, we can do this. Reality is a bit different, right? The important thing is we have a very deep and structured context, right? To create a repeatable and explainable context that you can restart at any single step of the process. So that's important. So you know why the problem is there, where it is, what is leading to the problem. That's the number thing. Multi-signal engine, pretty much this is the ability to serve as the highest value reproducible true positives first, right? Allow us to identify this is the real problems that we can deal with, they are real, and we can fix them. For everybody else, we're continually using our manual steps to how we can fix things today. Everything is aligned with the style of the team, so we have this continuously engine at the end that fixes and tests local conventions, pre-commit checks, specific linters, etc. Pretty much the style that your team is used to. So the pull request looks and feels like what one of your colleagues would have done. Validated autonomy. This is the idea that we run the secure sandbox as I highlighted, but we are removing the hallucinations and any unsafe changes, right, to prevent us as humans having to review this and manually identify those issues, right? So ultimately not wasting our time. There's a human oversight. We only automate 95% of the works, but ultimately the teams stay in full control at the end. Pretty much what enters in production is reviewed by a human every single time. Maybe that will change in the future, but that's it's going to be a separate discussion. Finally, you're getting results, right? Well, other tools will generate guesses, sell you tokens, do auto completion, and ask you what you want to do. Here, we're actually creating a predictable outcomes, a validated bug fixes and proposals in the form of pull requests, right? There's nothing in between. You don't know what you're getting. And over time, this is actually growing advantages because we continuously learning with our reinforced learning, what you like, what you dislike, how you actually like to do things, what's important for your application, and which parts of the applications are maybe obsolete or just tests that you don't care about. And that allows us to have much more targeted and precise choices of what to fix and when. Given the timeline, I'm just going to quickly go a bit deeper into the how. As you said, the most important things is to be able to have benchmarks to test if this end-to-end system of multiple agents is correct. Really kind of validate and test, are we getting better or worse? The first thing, as I highlighted, this is the SWT benchmark, is our ability to test things. And we're saying, if you're not doing tests, then your precision is very low. If you're able to add regression tests and then unit tests and then AI tests, and when you do all of those, you're already increasing, actually reducing the workload of seeing wrong issues by 6x, right? And this is the SWT benchmark. We're kind of a leader in that board right now, and we've been for a while. And that's one of the important pieces. The other big way of measuring things is the SWE benchmark. As I highlighted, this is the most common industry standard. You will see almost everybody, like you see every single dot here is an example of either large language models alone or an agent from that model that is there. And you can see us right as here, we are kind of leading the state-of-the-art performance there. Again, the back part of this benchmark is focused on open source libraries, so they're not very representative for real application issues. And this is where we actually created what we call the SWA benchmark, which is kind of allows you to really see that real applications and real problems in those applications is what matters. We published that recently as well. And you can see that compared to the fake or just a library type of issues where even the models likely trained on those fixes because they're open source, we actually see considerably drastic decline in the capability of the agents and models to deal with those. And this is where we come in, trying all of these decline and false positives here, in a way, false solutions. We will actually filter out and just identify which issues do not require more information, and they can safely produce pull requests without requiring more data from the developers. So they can just assign it to a code reviewer and push it forward. With that said, I'll pause. We have a special offer for all LocalStack users to actually start using LogicStar, because we're implementing it. We've seen how great it can work on the LocalStack code base as well, and some demo applications running LocalStack. And we're going to push a blog post how we plan to integrate LocalStack as part of the execution environment, so you can very quickly get much better results. And I'll pause here so we can start with some questions to make sure that we have enough time for Lazar as well.